But we'll go ahead and get started with today's Entrepreneurs in Action. My name is Ashley DeMuth. I am the CEO for the Menomonie Area Chamber and Visitor Center. I am very excited to be joined today by Tammy Simon, our tourism manager. All three of our entities that we're talking with today and our entrepreneurs are tourism activities and attractions here in the Menomonie area. So we are very excited to be able to welcome them for this. We'd also like to thank our gold sponsor for our Entrepreneurs in Action program, which is a quarterly virtual event, Excel Energy. As you can see, this side, my Vanna was on the wrong side. But we are thrilled to have Excel Energy sponsor these entrepreneur events. We have a playback with a significant amount of college students from the university here in town who are looking at being an entrepreneur and starting their own business. So thank you, Excel, for supporting those efforts. Some housekeeping items. We do ask to hold questions until the end. So the audience who are joining us live, go ahead and pop those questions down in the chat box as you think of them. And then we'll have some guided Q&A at the end for those of us who are joining live. For our presenters, we may have folks that send questions to you after the event as well. So anybody who did register for this or who are joining us on Zoom for today's event, we will go ahead and pass your contact information along to them. For those guests who are joining us live, we do ask again that you turn off your microphone as well as your camera during the event. My suggestion is that you do click up on that right Brady Bunch screen that says view and go ahead and click on speaker view. That speaker view will allow you to have the largest screen for whoever's speaking at that time. Also go ahead and click that volume up. Some folks, their microphone comes in differently. So the best thing that you can do is make it at a tone that works best for you for hearing this. Our replay does happen on YouTube. You can find that link right on our website, menomoniechamber.org, on the Programs tab under Entrepreneurs in Action. So for those of you joining us for the first time, Entrepreneurs in Action is meant to be a conversation versus a presentation. So you will hear our speakers interjecting with each other and our facilitator offering kind of a guided discussion as well. So we will make sure that there is time for Q&A at the end, but we also want to make sure that we keep that conversation going. So while I'm waiting for our facilitator, Tammy, to join us today, I'd like to go ahead and have each of our guests please give a quick, maybe 60-second elevator pitch about you, what organization or business you're with, your role there, and how long you've been in that. And we'll go ahead and start with Julie.
I'm Julie Govin. We own Govin's Meats and Berries, or Govin's Farm here in Menomonie. We are a 3-season farm. In the spring, we open our farm babies. We have been doing that for 18 years, where people come and hold all our farm babies. In the summer, we have 6 acres of strawberries, both you picked and pre-picked. That is usually mid-June to early July. And then in the fall, we have a corn maze and our haunted trail, and that usually starts mid-September through the end of October. We have been doing that since 2009, and strawberries since 2001. We love teaching the public about agriculture. That's why we do what we do.
Fantastic, Julie. Thank you for that brief overview. Next, we'll go ahead and Brent, if you could offer a quick introduction.
I'm Brent Creaser. I'm with Red Cedar Speedway here in Menomonie. It's a board-run organization. We've been a group together, different boards, different people have run it over the years. This is actually our 50th anniversary at the Speedway this season. Things got going in 1973. Ironically, my grandfather was one of the people that helped get things rolling with the Speedway back then, him and a group of friends. So it's kind of cool. He still comes nowadays, 86. And I'm still trying to keep it rolling, and keep the energy, everybody involved. I've been involved with the Speedway I've been going since I was probably 5 because of him. And then in about 2012, I got active with the board and just was a board member for quite a few years, and then moved up to the vice president role here shortly after COVID. And then this year I also took on the marketing responsibilities of the Speedway. So it's been a very busy off season, that's for sure. So
thank you, Brent. And let's go ahead, Megan, if you'd like to provide a brief introduction.
Sure. Hi, my name's Megan Frank, and my husband and I are the owners of WoodWind Park, formerly known as Deepwood Ski and Golf. I'm originally from Colorado. My husband's from Minnesota. So Western Wisconsin is the perfect landing place for the two of us and our family. We have 3 children. Our oldest is 22, our middle is 20, and our youngest is 17. And we love and adore this area. We fell in love with the property out at Deepwood, and have the grandest aspirations for the place to be such a thriving spot for both winter and summer activities. We have done some tubing, we've done some music, we've had some weddings, and we have all of those in the hopper for plans to come. We are currently under construction for the storied chalet that is actually 2 separate builds. We're now the 3rd to renovate this building, and so we're work on both the outside part of the property and the inside. And this has been an adventure that could not have been scripted beforehand, nor do I have any idea how it's going to be written from here on out. So I'm just along for the ride, but I am certainly in the middle of hoping to grow something that's of the equal caliber of the 2 organizations that are already here, which I love and have been to Govins, and I go to the races, and I think that there's some really fun things that this area can provide, and we just hope to be one of those other stops for people to come.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for that overview, Megan. So again, our facilitator today is going to be Tammy Simon, and she's just finishing up here. But while we wait for her, just a little bit of overview about your staff structure as it sits now. So learning about now, obviously we have volunteers, we have owner operator as well. But what does your staffing look like as the organization or business sits today? Megan, let's go ahead and start with you.
So right now we are staffed with my husband and I primarily for operations, and I am marketing, that if we're going to give titles for that at the moment. We have a site manager with a couple of guys that work with him to work on the outside part of it. And then because we're under construction, our contractors are on site, but not necessarily employees of our company. So we have, when we were in operation, we've worked with both volunteers and part-time bartenders and ticket staff. Well, but pretty small. We're really small staff at the moment until we can get completely fully up and running.
And Megan, can you clarify again, how long have you, when did you purchase the property?
So we purchased the property in 2018, spent a couple years getting things cleaned up both inside and out. And then we started to tinker with the idea of operations when everyone had to go outside, and we determined that we had an outside place for people to gather. So starting in 2020, fall of 2020, we slowly invited people onto the property, even though we knew we were nowhere near being ready to be open. And so we've kind of gone about this really backwards, but it was not our fault. I blame COVID, and we should blame COVID for pretty much everything.
I think both Julie and Brent can attest to that as well. We'll just go ahead and blame COVID.
Yes.
Brent, you had leaned in earlier talking about your structure as a volunteer board, but does Red Cedar Speedway have employees, and what does that structure look like?
Yeah, we actually have a lot of employees between our concession stands. We have a concession stand on the front and the back side in the pit area. So there's probably, I would say, I guess not knowing because I don't really do the hiring, but just a guesstimation, maybe like 10 on the front and like 3 to 4 in the back doing the concessions part of it. Then we have all our track personnel, our officials and stuff, and our track prep crew. So, and then all our ticket takers, our security guards, and I believe that's probably about all. So there's probably, I would estimate around probably 30 employees or so.
That's more than I thought. So that's a good knowledge nugget. Much appreciated. Yeah. How about Govins? You've grown quite a bit in staff structure. What does it look like today?
So my husband and I, John, are the primary caretakers of everything and do everything. Our son is coming on part-time this past year to help. Otherwise, we are seasonal employees. We do 35 to 40 employees each season. So spring, summer, and fall. And they're usually separate employees. I usually have, we use a lot of college students. So depending on the season, if the college students come back or not, I usually probably have 10 to 12 that come back every season. And then they end up graduating and we have to start all over again.
And so, Julie, what did that look like when you started compared to now?
When we started, I mean, our busy hours now are what it was when we first started, how many we had for a whole weekend. So when we started, we had maybe 2 people in the barn, and now we have about 30 people in the barn in the spring. In the fall, we've always had about the same number because it takes so many people to get everything going. And even for strawberries, it's the same number that picked and are in the strawberry patch, so that number hasn't changed. The biggest number that's changed is our lambing barn number.
And Brent and Megan, obviously, Brent, you have obviously Red Cedar Speedway has been around longer than 2018. What did that look like? Can you speak to that, of what that looked like from Red Cedar Speedway, kind of from the start and the evolution of hiring staff?
Oh, it really, you have your main people that stay year after year after year. Most of our officials have stayed pretty regular. The changeover happens in the concessions area. It's same as what Julie had said, where you get them when they're young. They're we get some high school kids that work in our concessions, and then they get involved in sports, or they graduate from high school and go off to college, and that's where we have to start that cycle back over again and find the younger crew again and have them for 3-4 years, and then they're off and doing their own thing again. So yeah.
I would say that's the seasonal problem, right? I mean, I think we all are pretty seasonal businesses, and I would say that we have business out in Colorado too, which is also seasonal, but we found it already here in Wisconsin. When you do something seasonally, you get the students, you get them young, you train them up to be amazing people, and then they go off and they do amazing things in other jobs that are not just seasonal. So I think that's the challenge of having seasonal employees, is that you are likely going to have a turnover that's different than a normal business that operates year round.
And Megan, that's obviously your staffing has looked different since 2018 and opening, and kind of need-based, and that seasonal really resonates with you.
Yeah, definitely. We've already seen kids graduate out because of just, well, I don't know, they get to be 18, 19, 20, and for some reason they just don't want to do those like teenage seasonal jobs so much anymore, which I can't blame them. But yeah, I think that's a seasonal issue for sure for businesses that operate that way.
Yeah, and the culture of staffing really has changed, especially in the last 5 years, especially since COVID. So thank you so much for everybody for providing a brief overview of your business and introduction about yourself. We talked about seasonal, staffing now and staffing, what it looked like in the beginning. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Tammy Simon, our tourism manager. She's going to take over facilitating the fun questions, digging a little bit deeper. Once again, I encourage you, share the good, the bad, the ugly, those celebrations and successes, as well as what keep you up at night. But Tammy, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Can everybody hear me? Okay, good. Thanks for letting me kind of hop in here a little bit later. I'm just going to dive into questions. Julie and Megan, I've met you before. Brent, we're really glad to have you here because I'm super excited about the partnership that we have established with Red Cedar Speedway and kind of moving forward as far as tourism is concerned. Can you jump in if you're ready to talk, whatever you want to do. What was the #1 tool that helped you succeed in the early days? We all have those challenges, but what was the #1 tool that kind of just helped launch you forward?
Word of mouth. If you do a good job at the beginning, they will spread that word. And social media will spread that word. It used to be newspapers when we started in 2001. And now it's social media. If you don't have a good social media presence, it's not going to go anywhere.
Right. Isn't it interesting how things have changed in that arena? Like there are people meeting in the community talking about how we're kind of a news desert. There's no place for us to share our news except on social media. So, just knowing which social media to use too is a difficult challenge. Yeah. So, Brent?
I would say with our group, it's probably more what really got us jump started was the volunteers back then. I would say if you talk to my grandpa and stuff, when it got started, people more or less just had a dream to bring racing to Menomonie. They had followed some of the tracks and stuff. There was one over in Eau Claire and it was kind of being run poorly, and they wanted a different option, and they talked with the county board and got it moved over, or got something started here. And through the years, the volunteers of people that have, put time in down at the Speedway and got it rolling. And then, just back in the 70s when I got going, you didn't have probably, I mean, I don't know, because I wasn't born until the middle '80s, but the limited things of entertainment back then, you know, it was probably something that more or less drove people to give them something to do on a Friday night and get away from, you know, work or home, or, you know, chores at home, give them something, a little excitement.
Mhm. Megan?
I think we were really lucky to have stumbled on a property that had such a storied past already. And
Mhm.
so figuring that out and doing some legwork to research what Deepwood has meant to this community. And so being able to create something new out of something that was old and valued and really has a really cool storied past, that was what's helped us to jumpstart anything. So I don't think we can take any credit for where we are right now. It wouldn't be there without Deepwood. It wouldn't be there without the history of what this community enjoyed about that place. And so then the word of mouth, like Julie is completely right. I mean, we put out one little thing in the fall of COVID when nobody had been together for a while and said, hey, we're going to show you what's happening at this Deepwood place. It's been closed down for a while. And hundreds of people came that I was just so shocked, but it was all because they were all talking to each other about trying to, and that's one thing that's really special about this community is that there are enough people. It's the best size community because you don't always see somebody you know when you go someplace, but if you do, you run into like 9 people you know. So it's getting used to that, the capacity for this community to be such an engine for the thing that you're trying to create and the business you're trying to run.
Yeah, you talk about the people. When you talk about people and relationships and volunteers and word of mouth, can you tell me, was there one maybe relationship that stood out at the beginning that you forged a relationship and all of a sudden you're like, wow?
Were you asking me?
All of you? Yeah, anybody chime in.
I don't know. I was just really lucky that people came out of the woodwork that had an experience or a story to share about their time out at Deepwood, because had so much to clean up. It took a while for us to actually be able to open the doors for anybody to walk in, and we're still not actually done cleaning up, but you know, it's got a little bit more capacity for holding some people. But I think there's a historian out of Colfax who brought me a ton of information. So that Troy is his name. For me, there were just a number of people. I don't know that I could have one person for our experience.
We didn't have one either. I mean, the media was all over. We were so different on what we were doing, opening a farm up for people to see it, that the media just loved it. That, hey, you can go to a farm and hold babies. So that's what got us going. And now they just, you know, every year they're at the farm for something. And now everybody in the cities, the news channels in the cities pick us up too. And it's just, we're unique. And that makes it different.
Right. Brent, I know that you mentioned volunteers. Are there some relationships that you can remember, maybe that you've heard about, that in the beginning kind of really helped forge the future of the racetrack?
Oh, I would say there's I don't know that I really would be right to comment on it, because I'd probably miss a lot of them, you know, between all the, you know, the longtime sponsors and supporters, and just there's so much history that goes with our place. We started actually, just to go with it, we started a Hall of Fame a number of years ago, and I was just counting the drivers because we were making these special shirts, and there's over 30 drivers that we have in there that are just, you know, you go back, and I can think back as a kid of memories and stuff of them racing and that, and then the people that work there that are in there, there's probably about 50 people in that Hall of Fame already since it started. Then you know, I have a relationship with all of them, and it's cool to hear all the old stories. And I've actually recently gotten to know the old track photographer, and he's passed on some history photos and stuff too, that was pretty cool, that he's entrusted me with kind of more or less the history of the Speedway being passed down to me. So you know, there's so much, and some of the sponsors have been with us, you know, since day one. I can think of, you know, one right off the top of my head would be Bill's Distributing, the big supporter of the Speedway, and have been with us since the beginning of time. So
so this is kind of a question on the opposite end of that spectrum. We all had partnerships and we all have word of mouth. What was a challenge you didn't expect? Like what, and Brent, I realize it's a little bit different for you, but what in the last 50 years, kind of what are the challenges that the raceways overcome? And then Megan and Julie, what kind of challenges are you working on still overcoming probably that we maybe don't think about?
I would say like our challenges would probably be, keeping the neighbors happy and stuff like that. They're not very appreciative.
Everyone's nodding, keeping the neighbors happy.
Yep. You don't want to, there's nights where it's going to go late because, you can't help certain things that happen, during a race night, but we try our best to get done as early as possible because there is actually benefits for us to get done early. You get the children involved and they get to go over and see the race cars and stuff afterwards. But if you're getting done late every week, no one wants to do something like that. They gotta get the kids home to bed. That 30 minutes is a big thing. I've always said a goal in my head is to be done by right around 10 at the latest, even though our curfew, that always is kind of a hamper for us, is more or less a problem. We've always just struggled with the people, the complaints and stuff like that, of the noise and the dust. And we've done our best over the last, I think since I've been on the board the last 10 years, to really try to get them, complaints down and limit the dust and make it an enjoyable experience for everybody, even if they're not there. We want them to appreciate the Speedway and what it brings to the community.
Right. What is the curfew, Brent?
Our curfew is 10:30, but if we start the race before 10:30, we have up until 11 o'clock to finish it.
Okay. I just wanted you to explain that because there's probably a lot of people who don't even know that have
Yeah,
no idea.
there.
So.
Yep.
Megan or Julie, what kind of roadblocks did you experience?
Our biggest challenge is parking in the spring, especially this year, because
Yes.
we park in hayfields and it's really impossible this year to park in hayfield. Sometimes the neighbors, and we only have 5 people that live on our road here. Sometimes the township doesn't like that we're parking on the road, but we are completely legal. We have one-way parking or one-sided parking. We set it up with the county, works with us and says, yes, we're legal. And sometimes the township or the neighbors just don't accept that.
Right.
That's the biggest challenge.
Well, and you pack so much into a 4 or 5 week process, so it's you're going to have a lot of people there.
We are, and we like them when we don't have to park on the road, but sometimes the weather just doesn't cooperate.
Right. This year especially.
Yes, and we have a bus that gets people off the road, so the families get off the road as fast as possible.
Right. Right. Megan, I imagine one of your roadblocks is weather as well, but there must be others.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I think any outdoor event is going to be challenged by weather for sure. And any group that is working with large amounts of people are going to have complaints from people and parking issues. We aren't there yet, but we're already anticipating our challenges because we do know that some of the things we want to do, we're going to need to have some overflow or some shuttling or some things. So we're working on those things. But for us, so far, the biggest challenge has been permitting for commercial renovation on an old building at the state level, which was not anything that we anticipated. I'm very much a dreamer and not very grounded in the real world. So when I have an idea about something, I'm assuming that it just can happen, and there's not like anything logistically necessary to have a ceiling that holds up the roof. That's all minor in my estimation, but apparently the inspectors in the state, and I give them credit, they do want the building to be secure and they want our bathrooms to be accessible and all the things that are like, yeah, those are things. But it took us 6 months to get our permits approved to even begin the renovation. And that was definitely beyond our expectation for what we thought it was going to take. So that's been our biggest challenge. And but I am anticipating some of the similar challenges that Julie and Brent have mentioned, because anytime you bring large groups of people together, some of the challenges are the same.
So we talked about challenges, but what kind of things kind of kept you up at night when you first started? Or some of you, you're still kind of in that infancy stage, but what kept you up at night when you first started, and what keeps you up at night now? Are those the same issues?
I'm not sleeping, so I can just answer that quickly. Like, we're still very much not sleeping through this entire thing. So maybe I'll get some hope from the other two that there is maybe a finish line. I'll say that for the racing, and you know, a place where new life can happen. And I'll say that for Julie. Yes, but we're definitely not sleeping right now.
And as a business owner, there isn't a lot of sleep because you gear yourself up for this event. And Brent's is much longer than ours. You know, we're only doing it 5 weekends, but you gear yourself up and you're going, oh, this can go wrong, or the weather's crappy this week, or I only have half staff because it's Easter weekend, or, you know, you have all these challenges that come up every single week that are different. You know, something breaks down that you didn't, like, how am I going to get this fixed on a Friday afternoon? You know, so you constantly have something new happening.
Well, it is interesting that we have 3 organizations that basically if a weather issue comes up, you are shut down.
Yes.
Really. You lose business because of weather.
Yes.
Yep.
So probably one of the big challenges.
And what people don't understand, if they don't come on the slow days, like for us, if it's 20 degrees and people don't come, then they wonder why it's so busy the following weekend when it's 50 degrees. Well, nobody came the previous weekend, you know. So
right. And with your finite amount of weekends to come, you kind of, if you have a rainy weekend, you are in trouble just trying to get people in and out, right?
Correct.
And same with the Speedway. You guys lost a lot of weekends last year.
Yeah, we lost our whole month of August.
Right.
Was kind of just a nightmare. One of our biggest shows of the year is actually in August, and that was, unfortunately, we had to move it to the Thursday of our Punky Manor in September. Well, it sounded like a good plan, but it's not ideal. You know, once you get, I'm sure a lot of you guys see the same thing. Once you get to that school time of the year, you know, the kids are involved in their sports, and you know, you have a Thursday night. We had to run that on a Thursday night. Well, it's a school night, so I don't know that there was maybe four children up in the grandstands where that show would usually be packed with kids and stuff from the Eau Claire area, and that because it's in honor of a racer that come from the Eau Claire area that unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. So I would say that's the number one thing is the weather. Just you can't control that. Rain on a race day is another difficult thing. You know, you can get it could be the perfect amount where it was just enough to just save our track prep guy one time from water in the Speedway throughout the entire day. But the fans might think of that as almost a washout and not come out. And that's what you have to make the difficult decision. Do you cancel or do you risk it? And if you risk it and nobody shows up, you still gotta pay all the bills. You gotta pay all the, you know, the racers get paid for the positions they finish in, our employees still get paid and all that. And if there's nobody in the crowd to help pay the bills, then things start to get difficult.
A lot of head nods in that conversation right there.
Yeah.
I guess I'm curious about this. Does your business require special licensing? Kind of first part of the question. And then is that something you went in knowing, or is that a learning curve, or are there people out there that can help you understand those things?
in our business, insurance changes regularly because they'll decide they don't want to cover one item, but they'll cover something else. So they don't want to cover the zip line, but they'll cover the rest. So we're constantly changing insurance companies. We actually have 5 different insurance companies that insure the farm to make it work right now. So it is a nightmare if anything ever would go wrong.
Our similar challenges are with our insurance too, because of the events that we want to do. So we probably will end up with multiple insurance carriers as well, because we want to do tubing. If we want to do ice skating, there are very, very few insurance companies that actually will cover that. If we have a ski lift that gets anybody's skis up off the ground at all, that's an entirely different set of insurance. And that is a little bit of a surprise for us, only because when the mom and pops of the Deepwood era were operating as ski areas, there was not the accountability that there is now. So insurance companies have a much stronger hold on, and it's, you know, for the safety of the public. Again, this is me understanding the logistics of it. We do need to keep people safe for sure, but it becomes a little cost prohibitive for some of these small areas like ours, especially mom and pop, to even afford the overhead for that sort of thing. So we're making some decisions about how and when and what we invest in so that we can provide a place that is got that some of that recreation, not all of it at once. I can tell you that right now. We're not going to open up with all of it. We're hoping with maybe tubing next year with a lift that keeps everybody on the ground. That's about where we are right now. And then pray that snow does what snow is supposed to do, and maybe get a snowmaker. But you have to you got to figure out the risks and benefits. Like Brent said, like you have to decide, is it worth opening right now? And then you sometimes just roll the dice. Like we did some music events and didn't know whether it was going to be the right weather or not, and you roll the dice and you're like, oh, well, lost that gamble. Try again next week. You just got to make sure you don't lose as many gambles as you take. You want to win enough that you can stay afloat and keep moving forward. So.
Right. Julie, do you have to have specific licensing for the animals, or, I mean, outside of insurance?
For animals, we do not, because we are a working farm. We're not a petting zoo. So the animals never leave the farm. So we're considered a working farm because they are here year round. Food service licensing, yes.
Oh, yep.
Other than that, I think that's it. Off the top of my head, I can't even think right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Brent, what kind of licenses are you required to have at the Speedway? And obviously that's been established a long time ago, but what do they have there?
We got the food service like Julie, and then the beer licensing too, to sell the alcohol and that's all. I mean, I think that's all. There's maybe more, but we have to have a certain insurance too with the motorsports end of it, and there's only so many that do that. There's so many vendors that carry the motorsports insurance.
What kind of training do you think assisted you most in your endeavors? Is there something that stood out, like I have a degree in this and it really helped me, or maybe a class that you took somewhere? Megan's smirking. What do you?
Only because I got dragged into this. No, I married my husband, and that was why I'm here. He was the business major. I was the English major. So I can do the marketing, I can do the writing part of it. As far as I'm learning business as I go, and so I am certainly interested in it. And I have watched my husband. He's been who I've watched and tried to model and do those sorts of things. So I've read books. That's my classroom. So I probably should go back for some sort of business class, or I should just attend more Chamber of Commerce resource Zooms. But yeah, I'm certainly in the learning process, and I defer a lot of the business to my business trained husband, who had classes in college, and that was what he did. He majored in that. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So Megan, you talk about being dragged into this. So I'm a city girl, dragged onto a farm. So I grew up in the Twin Cities and got dragged onto a farm because I met my husband walking through the Minnesota State Fair. I had a sweat jacket on. Brown cows gave brown milk in my world. Now we're educating the public about agriculture.
I love that. Okay, so then I'm a city girl too. I grew up in the suburbs in Denver. So for me, Menomonie feels like a tiny town, which I think, if you're saying you're from the Twin Cities, you also have gone rural. Like we've just gone rural in that, and married people that kind of brought us here. But I think it says something that we want to be here and to be offering businesses like this to the community, because it is a cool place to live. Like we've come back here, we've lived here multiple times, long story. But anyway, we did finally land here, and there's something about this place and the land and the people. And yeah, so you have an awesome job. I've always thought, like, just running Govin's farm would be an awesome thing to do.
It has its problems too. I was a Stout major, went to Stout hospitality management. So that's how I got into this end of it. So I take care of the marketing and that end. As John and I say, he takes care of the four-legged creatures, I take care of the two-legged creatures.
That's fair.
Brent, I know that you obviously there's lots of people who and lots of hands involved in running the track. Are there some certain, like on your board, are there certain pieces of education that you require of some board members so that they can kind of help maneuver the organization forward?
No, it's more or less just people with the passion for racing, and nothing. I mean, I don't really have any background in marketing or anything like that. I'm just a highway worker by trade, and really has nothing to do with racing, and went to school for construction. So there's really, nothing that goes hand in hand. It's just more we all aren't afraid to get in and get our hands dirty and learn new things from some of the people that maybe have experience a little bit in that area and stuff like that. A bunch of heads together is better than one person thinking they know everything.
Mhm.
I think Brent just hit on something though, that if you're gonna try to get into anything entrepreneurial, you have to have a passion
Correct.
about what the thing is. And even if it's a passion to keep your marriage together, whatever that passion is, if you go at it with an intention, you will learn on the job, and you will also do extra legwork to get better at what you're doing. But you have to be passionate about it. If that passion isn't there, it won't matter what your head knowledge is the way that I would look at it. And that's why any business that has an entrepreneur that loves what they're doing, they will find a way. They'll find a way to get the information that they need.
I agree.
What a great piece of advice and insight. So you've all had, I'm assuming you've all had kind of an aha magical moment, like this is the direction I'm supposed to be. I mean, we're talking about all those challenges, but can you tell me about a time when you were like, okay, this is my track, this is where I belong?
Mine happened before COVID, so I'm just gonna cling to that. We were sure this is exactly what we were supposed to do, and we still think this is exactly what we're supposed to do, but it has certainly been challenged by the course of the way that we were approaching what we felt like we were supposed to do, because it felt pretty faded. We just kept thinking about this idea of something we could bring to the community, a way to give back, and we just were rolling around all sorts of different thoughts and ideas, and kept landing on this one for a couple years. And then when it finally came together, it was like, oh, this is what we're supposed to do. And then we started cleaning and renovating, and then everything fell out from underneath us. And I was like, oh, maybe this isn't what we were supposed to do. But I do think it is. And I think it's just not looking the way that we had initially imagined, but it happened very, very close to the beginning for us.
Okay.
I think it happened with us when there was another strawberry patch on County Road B, and he passed away. And John said we should grow strawberries. He had just sold the cows, and he said, I want to do something, but I don't want to do cows anymore. And he had just sold the cows, and he said, let's take on the strawberry season. And that's what we did, and then we just kept expanding from there. I wanted the corn maze. It took a few years to get him on board to do a corn maze, so that was a little behind. And he still had some animals here at the farm, which was sheep, and we heard a speaker talk. So we heard a speaker talk at a conference regarding a farm like ours in Madison. And he wasn't doing the education portion at Wheeling. He was more of a petting farm. And we said we got to educate the public, and that was, we went through it, and that's what we did.
But your passion basically is what's pushing your involvement with the Speedway. Have there been moments where you're like, yes, this is where we belong? And especially with operation of the Speedway, when you have many setbacks, there have to be some positive points there too. What do those look like for you?
Well, I guess more or less just how I got started and with helping. It was just I had some friends, and actually a friend of mine, his dad was the president at the time, and was saying, about the need for help and that, and and thought to myself, I enjoy this place so much, maybe I need to give a little time, to the place, and started ran for a board position at that time, and missed out by just a little bit, and didn't give up, and ran again the following year, and got on the board and been there ever since. So it was more or less, like you said, driven by the passion and the love for the place, and the love for racing.
I kind of want to go back to a topic that we just breezed over earlier, and that's marketing and social media and how it's changed from the newspaper to all the social media avenues that we have. I want each of you to take a little time to talk about how your marketing has changed. Megan, I understand that you haven't been in the process that long, but I bet your marketing has changed since you've started, because it changes like weekly, I think, for us. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about how you've had to kind of change your marketing tactics, and what do you use, and what do you think's been most successful?
Well, I certainly, I guess I'll talk about how I know it's going to change. So we're in a little bit of a pause for our social media presence. I've determined that there's a lot of people following, which is fantastic. And if I don't have an event or something to be promoting, there's not as much to say. So there's not a lot of event things that I'm doing on social media. Instagram and Facebook are our primary places. I've used MailChimp and email distribution that way. I do feel like that is that would be something that's changing. So when I first started, that was definitely a way of reaching out to a lot of people that were subscribing and kind of helping us along, because we had to ask for a little bit of help to get us through that COVID year. And so the donors all were on that subscribed email list. But that readership has changed. You can get that information from MailChimp. So I can see that that's a shift that's happening, and we need to get more involved in things that are more of your TikTok, if it stays a thing, if it doesn't get banned. That would be one. A place where if some of the younger kids, the Snapchat and the those are places I know we're going to need to get in, which means I'm hiring someone who knows how to do Snapchat. And I mean, I know my limitations, and I can certainly write some content, but there's a lot of new ways to provide content and information and video. So I've moved a little bit away from the written word to trying to do video and images, because I feel like that's where people are going. They're going away from having to read anything. They want to just watch a quick video. And if it's got some good music or whatever, that I just know there's going to be a younger, savvier person who's going to take over that part when we're ready to say a lot of things that are going on. So that'll be maybe one of our first hires, to be honest. One of our more full-time hires will be that, an event and marketing manager.
Ours is at the Speedway. I would primarily used to be probably newspaper and radio. Now it's kind of migrated. We still do the radio part of it. But then it's a lot of Facebook, and we have a Snapchat page that I take care of and manage that too, and try to, use it primarily on race nights. I'm down in the infield, so I can get some pretty close up, cool videos, shared to that. And what else do we do? We got our website too, but it seems like what more or less everybody is on the Facebook platform the most is where we get our most receptive to. We've actually started doing the paying for the ads a little bit, and then you're able to see more people are gets out to more people. Sometimes I feel like the Facebook, that algorithm or whatever they do, you get kind of hidden, or if you don't post stuff for a lot. That's kind of maybe a tip for Megan, is even if you don't have anything, I've learned just from doing ours, that if you just post like say a picture from Deep Woods back in the day, randomly every once in a while, it just keeps you, I think, higher up the food chain than what others are, so I always try to keep, at least something on there once a week in our off season, if not a few things, just some past pictures of the last year, just some neat footage or something that I can at least share. And then during the season, when you're ready to hit it hard, you're higher up the food chain on the ladder, and you seem like you get a lot more views. But if you take a break for a little bit, you can kind of notice by the amount of people that it shows you that it's way down. It takes a little bit to build your name back up, it seems like. Good to point. Me. That's like I said, kind of our primary focus. The website thing, you do get a few people, well, jeepers, how am I supposed to even know what's going on? I don't have Facebook. Well, you still have to kind of try to accommodate them and keep the website updated the best that you can. But the fastest way to an announcement all the time is to somebody's phone somehow. And our best way is Facebook. So if we're going to say we got to cancel late in the day, or you know, maybe something else big like a rule change or something, we got to get it out right away. That's where we're going to go to first.
We use many different things. Make sure your Google business page is up to date. And you can change the hours on that, especially if the races are being done for that day. Make sure you put closed on there. The website, we use press releases. Great way to get the media involved is send them a press release. Radio, we do WWID. It has a great following, and so does Midwest Family. We do text. We have a program. We send a text out to everybody. We've gone away from emails because we have been flagged with our email for some reason for so many years now. And so when we send out a mass email, we get flagged. So we're doing text programs. Facebook, Instagram, and Volume 1 is the only print we do. And yes, it changes nonstop.
We have also gone away from print media. Most of our media is digital, most of our marketing is digital, and it seems to be helping us get the numbers. Do you think one of the biggest questions we have is, well, you're missing people if you're just doing digital. You're missing a group. How do you kind of alleviate that? Now, Julie, you mentioned press releases. So if there is a newspaper, they will pick that up. But that also goes to radio stations and television stations for news, right?
Right.
So what is the most successful way that you get that word out? Give me your one. Facebook, right? We're hearing Facebook from Julie and Brent. Megan?
Yeah, I would say Facebook too.
Yeah. And one of the things that we've learned about Facebook is that you have to pay to play. So if you're putting things on Facebook, even if you spend just $1 or $2 a day, if you start boosting those ads, you're going to be higher up in the presentation of things on people's pages, and then your algorithm is going to change. So that's like a dirty word right now, algorithm, because nobody can actually figure out what that means. What is it even, honestly? But yeah, so that I really wanted to just talk about that because it is a challenge that you're an established organization. Brent, you've been there for years. Megan, you're brand new. Julie, you have a organization that's unique to anything else around here. All of you do actually, but you still have to use some kind of media to get that word out. So,
the one thing I will say about Facebook though, is if you schedule a post, it does not go as far as if you just sit down at the computer and put something out there.
Yeah.
If you're one that's going to schedule a post 5 weeks in advance or sit down and do one for every few days, it's not going to go as far as if you just sit down that morning and put something out there, or in the evening. They go further in the evening than they do in the morning usually. Depending on what your following is.
The one good thing about Facebook is that they do offer a lot of tracking information. So you can get data from what you're putting on there. So that is an advantage to using Facebook. But like you said, Julie, you get a better response if you're just throwing out a post than if you schedule it in advance. Well, that is a big time consumer. And when you're an entrepreneur, sometimes you're a party of one or two.
Right.
It's hard to keep up with, right?
Right.
I do have a really quick question about balancing the demands of work and life. It might be a little bit different for you, Brent, because you are on a board for the Red Cedar Speedway, but it could end up consuming a lot of your time in the summer. Tell me how you kind of balance work and life, or if you do. Don't be afraid to say I have zero balance in my life.
It's difficult, definitely. Being that I took over this marketing gig, that's not something that you just kind of turn the go light on April 14th when we open the doors for the season. That more or less starts the day after the season's over for next year. I actually have meetings with prospective sponsors for next year this summer. So, you know, it's a year-round thing, and it's probably been one of my busiest off seasons that I've had to date, you know, getting things planned for the season. It's more or less, you know, you got to get the schedule set up. You got to get sponsors tagged with each event. Right now I'm working on, you know, going around and getting the sponsors. We give all our sponsors a certain amount of passes for the season to come in, and trying to work with my graphics guy to get billboards and stuff done. So as soon as the rest of the snow's done melting and it dries up a little bit, we can get them put up. But then on top of that, I still have a 40-hour a week, if not more, working at the highway department. Some weeks can be double, as we've seen this winter. So yeah, it's definitely a struggle. Sometimes you just got to put the computer down and realize that you do have a family here too, and they deserve equal amount of time, if not more than everything else that you're doing too. You know, family's first, and everything else is after that.
For John and I, it's difficult. He'll come in from outside and I'll want to talk to him about something that might be 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And he wants to shut down, but I still need to discuss things with him, and that doesn't always go very well. Or if we're going somewhere, it's really easy. Hey, we can implement that at our farm. It's, you never shut down. It's, you're constantly thinking about it because your partner's sitting there with you, or you might see something on TV. Hey, that's really cool. How can we add that? I mean, so it's 24/7, 365 days a year. It really is. It's rare we shut down.
And that's why I think it's important to be passionate about what you do, right? Because
Correct.
you can handle that, and you do still get excited about the new thing that you see if you are still really passionate about that thing, right? And as soon as you lose that passion, then all of a sudden that's a really annoying link that you just sent me on my text, because that was an idea that you just had. And I think, you know, Julie working with her husband and I working with my husband, that's a different dynamic also when you're trying to partner with someone that you live with, and then it doesn't turn off literally 24/7. It is what we do. We've had to take a step back because my husband's health issues over the last 18 months. He's been working real hard to keep his eyesight, and I'm trying to keep him balanced enough so that he can keep it, which means that I have to slow him down. And so that's created a balance just because. So we've had to, you know, part of what we pulled back this winter for our operations out there was so that we could reestablish a better balance than what we had. And sometimes you just have to do that. You have to figure out, like, where do you take the hit, and is it worth that hit right there? And if it's not, then you just reevaluate, and you try to. The one nice thing about being the owner of your own business is you can determine that most of the time. I mean, as long as you have set yourself up well enough that it's not going to crash and burn with the brake or something. That's something that's been really valuable for our family this winter, is to try to create a balance that is healthier for our marriage, healthier for our family. It's going to ultimately be better for the park in the end when we're finally up and going. And sometimes that's a necessary part, because if you go, you know, held to the wall forever and you just don't ever stop, something will break, something will give. And so you do have to be mindful of where it feels like it's going to fall out from under you. And if you're okay with that part breaking, you can keep going. But if you're not, then you got to reevaluate and get things balanced again.
Agree.
Probably the most important piece that you can take out of this entrepreneur advice today, I think, is balance and finding it when you have to. I just have one more question for everybody, and it's probably a selfish question because it has to do with tourism. But can you tell me how community support has helped you in your business, and then what else? What more community support would help? How can we help you more? So is there something that you could benefit from if that community help was there?
I think the tourism group chamber does a wonderful job for us. You guys support us in everything we do. If I call, you guys are there. You're great. So thank you.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, I feel that this is a perfect community to try to do the kinds of things that we're doing, because we've got good community support. We've got the chamber and all of the resources that are available there. And there really are plenty of those, the network, the base that you need to actually make an attempt to grow something bigger than you, which is what we all really are trying to do. I mean, there's all of these things are way bigger than 2 people and 3 people and boards of people. It's a huge community offering that happens at Govin's and happens at the racetrack, and we hope will happen over at WoodWind, that the community can gather there because it has the bolstering support of the community. So right now where we are, patience is what I need from the community. And so far that's been good, patience and grace. And then, you know, when we are ready to open our doors, that they come in a good amount of number at a time that we can handle them. No, I think we've been really, really lucky to be where we are. And so for now, there's not an ask that we have for the community. We're really grateful.
I
All
think I would say probably the same thing as both of them. You know, you guys do an excellent job, and we probably, unfortunately, probably haven't taken as much advantage of the resources that you guys can give us. You know, over the years with the changeover and stuff, and hopefully that's something that I can, you know, tackle myself and get more involved and help out or get you guys' help a lot more than what we have in the past. So would love to build that relationship. The community itself, you know, for the most part, opens us with welcomes us with open arms and is thankful for us and knows what we bring as in tourism and stuff to the community itself. And the cool part about it, just before we finish up, when we were off for COVID, there was a lot of people that actually we had a few messages to our Facebook page that close by neighbors that said, well, it would have been our opening night in 2021. Once we got through COVID, they said we didn't really realize how much we missed you guys until the first noise of the race cars on the track again. So, you know, you always think that some people are against us and whatever, you know, being noisy and that, but the ones that were actually comment and say, you know, it's nice to have you back. So that was kind of cool.
That's great. Well, I think we're out of time, but I do want to thank you for taking your time today to share your entrepreneurial spirit with us and your experience and your setbacks and your challenges and your successes. And we do truly value all of you as a tourism partner in the community. And I look forward to working with you a little bit more closely this summer, when summer does come.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dan.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us. Good
You
luck,
bet.
everybody,
Thanks.
in your seasonal.
Thanks, you too.
The same to you guys.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.